Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We're Baltimore positive and positively into the baseball season right now. Any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. I'm getting the Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out on the road. We're going to be at Planet Fitness next week on the 7th in Timonium. Mark Viviano is going to come by and hang out with us. I'm going to get to wear my funny hat, my Planet Fitness New Year's hat. I will have scratch offs in the Maryland Lottery. I have an arsenal. I have an array of Maryland Treasures arts to give away. Also, our friends at GBMC keeping me healthy. If I could pull my sleeve up, I got my shot. I had my first doctor's appointment in this century. I'm not making that up, and it is 2026. There's my needle. GBMC. I don't want to scare anybody, but I did make it through. I think I'm healthy. I'm good. My thanks to GBMC. Also, our friends at Farnan and Dermer, they're the comfort guys. 410 I get to say that number all over now that I know the number, and I get to do old school stuff. Speaking of old school stuff, this guy, I think he wrote for the USA Today back when it was like, remember Fred Flintstone had the chisel
Yeah, yabba
on the
dabba do.
Yabba Dabba Doo yeah, right. And you've made it all the way through. You're writer in residence at Johns Hopkins University, but I knew him just back when he was a lowly baseball beat writer and columnist at the USA Baseball Weekly, which begat my dearest friend Mike Resigliano, Paul White, many others, Pete Williams, some of my alums that get together from the early 90s, back when Camden Yards was full. Tim Wendel is here. He has authored books in the summer 68. He has written books about leukemia and his brother's journey and doctors. So we have discussed, dude, you and I have done journalism, writing, authors.
What
We've
we
done
do
Rebel
it
Falls.
all.
We've done fiction versus nonfiction, and I'm a nonfiction guy all the way. And you're like an old school baseball sage. So if all I wanted to do was talk to you about the big red machine, you and I could go at it. But like when we get together, it's usually because I see you signing your book somewhere far flung, giving some speech as some writer in residence at Johns Hopkins University. And I we make time a couple times a year, and every time I bring you on, you're like, well, I don't watch baseball as much as I used to, so let's not talk about last night's Dodgers game or whatever. But you've moved on to like fun things, and you're moving around, and you're making books, and I know you're working on another book right now. But there is life after being a baseball writer, as you and me and Mitch Albom are all trying to figure out, right?
Well, very much. And it's funny because, we were talking just earlier before coming on, what should we talk about? And I realized one thing I didn't alert you about is I was behind the mic Sunday down here in Charlottesville for the Rock Marathon fundraiser. And I did a 2-hour show we called it Backstage at the Last Waltz. So we're playing the band, we're playing
That's why
Dylan,
I even
Van
invited you
Morrison.
on. I saw
There
you
you go.
doing this. You were
And it
doing
was
rock and
so much
roll.
fun. And that's a fundraiser, because like a lot of stations, the funding from DC has just been knocked out from underneath them. We raised that's a 2,200 bucks in 2 hours. People were digging it. And we were having so much fun because we set it up so we were in essence reporting from backstage. We even had a little ticker tape thing like typing music and such going, and all the stuff that happened. And it's amazing. Like Dylan almost didn't go on. And then he did after Bill Graham, the concert promoter said, "You're going on, or I'm going to beat the tar out of you."
I was gonna say your backstage thing reminded me of like Bill Graham backstage at Live Aid or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah, and
right?
we had a lot of fun with it. And the thing is, when you start doing research, when you start doing research on something like that, I'm going, "Oh, Last Waltz, I've been listening to that for a long time." Blah blah blah. I got the vinyl, etc. And I was going down to DC to speak at the Spy Museum. I was down there two Wednesdays ago, and I got the CD deluxe disc stuff of the Last Waltz, and I'm playing it in the car because that's the only CD player I still have. I don't have anything in the house. And they go
Does
to
it do okay
Dill.
with the bumps? The CDs?
I was good. Everything
Okay.
was good. And but they hit. Here comes Dylan, and I'm going, okay, I kind of know this. And all of a sudden he's playing songs. I'm going, hang on, I don't remember that on vinyl. I sure don't remember that on the documentary that Scorsese did. And he did 5 songs. 3 of them can only be found on the CD. And there was all this back and forth between him and Graham and Scorsese because he didn't realize when he showed up on Thanksgiving night, 1976, at the old Winterland Ballroom in San Francisco, that Scorsese was there. and he was filming the documentary. And Dylan had his own movie coming out, Ronaldo and Clara, which of course did nothing. But he suddenly said, "I'm not going out." So that was the compromise. And I never would have known that if I hadn't played the CD hustling down to Washington the other day. And we're able to tell people that, and they had so much fun with it. And how Van Morrison just upped that whole show. And, you're a rock and roll guy. I mean, I saw you went to the Springsteen concert, which I'm thinking I probably should go to. And I love all that backstory stuff.
Well, I'm trying to get Nils Lofgren on. I'm trying to get Geddy Lee
Oh,
on. So I'm trying to get, the one thing of our journalism and our writing side of this, I chased Cameron Crowe around
hmm
back in October and I still haven't read his book, and I just finished Geddy Lee's book finally 3 years later. Um, the Cameron Crowe thing was amazing because I had been compared to him so much when I was backstage at Hammerjacks when I was 17,
hmm
18. I didn't really know who he was, but I did know what Fast Times at Ridgemont High was, but I wasn't a Rolling Stone like reader, you know what I mean, at that time. And so I was a different kind of, I was more of a fan journalist in the way that I was taught how to ask hockey players questions after games. I was probably very aggressive with rock and rollers as a journalist, asking about, like, I pissed Pat Denizio off asking him about publishing. So when I go back and listen to the interviews of me with David Bowie, when I ripped David Bowie the summer before at Merriweather and he knew it, and he was coming on to do an interview with me, knowing that he read my bad review of him, and it's memorialized on the tape, so the journalist part of rock and roll, far more contentious than even Reggie Jackson and Billy Martin being covered in the 70s with the Yankees or whatever.
For sure,
Like
for
I,
sure.
I, I like, and rock and roll needed journalists but hated journalists. And I mean, to this day, Geddy Lee in his book wrote how much he hated Bill Graham because they were
hmm
always mistreated by Bill Graham when they were in the Bay Area, and how
Yep.
much power the promoters had. And I mean, Springsteen's book, he writes a lot about the mob in New Jersey and playing those clubs in the 70s that were all owned by the mob. And when he didn't get paid, like all sorts of things that we think of Springsteen as being a business guy because of all of that. But you're mentioning business and Dylan saying that's my likeness, that's my image in
hmm
1976. Like,
hmm
dude, you're not filming me. Like, no, no, no. I own the rights to me, right?
Right,
And that's
right.
50 years later. This is where selling your music off, or who owns Paul McCartney's catalog. We went to the Michael Jackson movie the other day because my
You like
wife
it?
had, well, I don't go to the movies ever. I bought into it thinking it was a concert that was brought to life.
Oh
And
no, no, no! It was a biopic. It was
yeah,
a
well, I went
it
to
was
it.
complete
Yeah.
unknown with the Dylan thing and all that stuff, and
Yeah, I
the
mean, but
Springsteen deal.
I love music and I'm so snookered in, much more so than like 4 tickets at a box seat for a baseball game, as an
Right.
example. And the Michael Jackson thing happened because 2 years ago, remember Talking Heads re-released the film, right? From the Pantages Theater in LA. Stopped making sense. They
hmm
released it in D box. And I didn't even know what the hell D box was. I've interviewed 3/4 of Talking Heads over. I've never talked to Tina, but I've talked to those three members in my career of
hmm
being a journalist. I'm not the biggest Talking Heads fan. I like them more now than I did then. But the movie was playing. I'd never seen the movie, and this D box thing is a chair that has 2.5 million haptics that moves you around in it, right?
Oh
And
wow.
I like love the chair so much with the Talking Heads movie. I've been telling my wife we're going to go do it. So I got snookered into a Michael Jackson biopic, which was a perfectly benign, fine. I mean, there was no Janet Jackson. It was missing all sorts of elements, but we did enjoy it. But like, I enjoy music or the experience of music or talking to you about Springsteen more than I do as to like how long Trevor Rogers is going to be on the IL.
Sure, sure. And I think there's a parallel there that I think we share because I first started as a rock and roll music critic in Buffalo. That's back where I met Rasig and those guys. That's where I started, in 79, that type of deal.
You were
And
writing about music then.
I was writing about music.
See, I don't
And
even know this. I don't know you at all, Tim Wendel. How could
and
I not
and
know
and
you after 30
Springsteen, I
years?
saw Springsteen first in 78, the Darkness Tour, which was wild. I mean, because he ended up being able to tour for a while, and he opened that tour at Shea's Theater in Buffalo, which only seats maybe 3,000, small place. And I'll never forget that they had just a spotlight. No warm up. In fact, the promoter who was telling me, you got to get to this concert. And I'm going, what time's it start? And he goes, 8 o'clock. I'm going, well, I'll show up at 8:30. He goes, no, don't show up at 8:30. You're going to miss the show. And I'm going, I'll miss the warm up. Who cares? He goes, there is no warm up. He's going, he just starts, he gets rocking. And I'm going, okay. And I'm kind of, skeptical of that. But anyway, one spotlight shining on the stage. And you're going, what is going on out there? The band's somewhat there. And Springsteen kind of leaned his head in and just said, I'm back. And he played for like 3.5, almost 4 hours and just
Beautiful.
cranked it. And the thing is, you're right, because backstage at someplace like Shea's or the Last Waltz or something is a lot different than being in the clubhouse at, Camden Yards or something.
I had a lot of
I,
musicians invite me in sweaty after shows. Some bands insisted. ZZ Top would not talk
sure.
to me on the phone. They insisted that I go down to
Yep.
the Capitol
Yep.
Center. They insisted on inviting me into the dressing room after the show. I mean, I saw them
I
picking through their
introduced
sunglasses,
Eddie Money one time. That's the only way I got the interview, is he said, you've got to come down and do it. And I'm there. And he said, well, you're going to introduce us too. And I'm going, what? And so I'm this schmo who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Eddie Money. And, and they just go crazy on there. But it's a whole different dynamic. And I think if you can survive that, if you can make that work, I don't want to say sports is easier, but sports is a little bit more mundane. You ever see
Cameron
almost,
Crowe's monologue for his live tour was him with Greg Allman stoned out of his mind,
wow, yeah.
and Greg Allman, after his brother died, giving him tapes full of heartfelt things that he was going to use, and then Greg Allman made him bring the tapes back and thought he was a narc and thought the cops were chasing him, and like this is the beginning of his book. He's 17 years old at the
Right.
pool in LA on this rock and roll drug tour in 1971 with the Allman Brothers, like literally. I mean, and I was backstage with all these rock stars when I was a kid, and like maybe I should turn it into something like Almost Famous or something like that.
Well, Almost Famous is just a great movie, and because of that, because you see how somebody like Cameron Crowe kind of rises up and all these shenanigans that happen, and no, it's a lot of fun, and I think it toughens you up in a weirder way for life being backstage, because I was backstage at a lot of shows, maybe similar shows to what you saw. I mean, I remember seeing
Did
Rush
you
and
have
Buck.
any bad experience? You saw Rush back in
I
the
saw
day?
Rush, yeah, back in the day.
Do you
I'm
still have your reviews? Do you still have the writing you did?
Oh, geez, somewhere. I
See,
don't
now
know.
that, Tim, that's what you want to digitize and put out on your
Yeah,
Facebook and
yeah.
let people read that and see that. Like, find 30 of them and put them all up one day.
I
And,
should
like, let
find
me
them.
go read what you wrote about Rush in 1981. Please. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
And some of them, you're right. Often they wanted to talk down at the show, but who was it? The Moody Blues are coming into Buffalo.
Okay.
And that's when they're, kind of at the height. That's when they're,
Nights in white satin.
yes. And,
No,
and
but 80, 81, that was more like Gemini Dream. And, like,
yeah, Jim I Dream, but
yeah, they were like a number one band right then.
and
Yes.
but and Justin Hayward was about ready to do Driftwood, from the War of the Worlds movie a little bit farther. But anyway, they had just gotten into town, and they said no, we're zonked, and meet us at the hotel. And they could not remember the name of the hotel. And finally, one of them looked out the window and said, "Oh, I'm still not sure what the name is, but it's the one with the dopey bear. The bear like good looking like this. It's the Travel Lodge, in downtown Buffalo." And so that's where I met him, and we had a great conversation. But it was interesting,
Do you
that's
have
where the
tapes of
bar
this stuff
was.
or no? Just notebook?
No, no, just notebook. I wasn't like you. I should have taped them.
Everything I had was tape because they were all
You're a smart
phoners.
man.
They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
phoners, and I had a little Radio Shack dual. It had two little cassettes, but they're the little courtroom cassettes.
yeah.
And so
One of
yeah,
my one of my favorite interviews. God, now you got me going. Johnny Cash.
whoa,
Yeah.
you interviewed Johnny Cash?
And he was so gracious. He was so kind. And I didn't really know his music that well. It was like, go down to whatever. Oh, it was an old theater where they had one of those revolving stages that went around in a
Right.
circle.
Like Painter's Mill.
And that was up in Buffalo, and I remember Cash looking out on it, and he goes, and he again was answering all my questions, very gracious, and he finally said, "I got a question for you," and I said, "What?" He said, "Am I going to get really dizzy out there?" And I'm going, "No, you're going to be fine," but I wouldn't focus on any particular people in the crowd because they'll be by the time you're on to the next
I
song.
went to Painter's Mill to see Frankie Valli in the Four
Oh, Frankie
Seasons.
Valli, yeah,
And I saw my ticket stub here, and I also saw Crack the Sky there. But the Circle Theater still exists in two places. There's a place in upstate New York that's been rebuilt. The
hmm,
only original one that I know of is the Celebrity Theater right next to Sky Harbor Airport in Old Phoenix, right in the middle of Phoenix.
yeah,
And it looks like the LA Forum, but in miniature. It's a little circle. It's almost like a carousel. And my wife and I went last year and saw a Meatloaf tribute there.
oh, that would have
And
been
it was
good.
just, but the stage didn't revolve the night we were there. It said the
Oh,
stage isn't going to revolve, and it didn't, but it does. And if you would have gone the next night to see Tom Kiefer Cinderella, it would have revolved. But like people here remember Painter's Mill, people my age, and
mhm.
Painter's Mill was the ish. I mean, every Tony Orlando and Dawn, every Liberace, all and like every Lucille Ball, everybody played Painter's Mill. Painter's Mill was the place, and it was dying around your era. So, like the
Yeah.
last big bands to play there, the Police, Pretenders, Golden Earring, that era of 81, 82. And then they had an unfortunate fire at the theater.
Oh,
The theater flooded a lot. I mean, it's literally where the Wegmans is at Painters Mill Boulevard and Sweetheart Cup in
okay.
Owens Mills,
I know
like
where you're
like
at
right not far from the Ravens facility at
now.
all. But that was yeah, Painters Mill. Now that I've said it out loud, all of it will show up on my Facebook because I'm in this group that every time somebody finds an old week at Painters Mill where Paul Anka played one night, Engelbert Humperdinck played the next night, and yeah, it was that kind of joint.
Yeah, yeah. Those joints are few and far between. They used to have when I was out in California. They had one down the peninsula, kind of near where when we lived on our sailboat near San Mateo Bridge, and they had one there. And I remember going down to interview Peter Gabriel there and seeing his show, and he was just said, "I'm never doing anything like this
Wendell, I just
again."
don't know what I didn't know you ever had a life before baseball. I mean,
Oh,
I had no
many,
idea.
many
Tim
lives.
Wendell is here. He is this is why he's the writer in residence. You want to promote Rebel Falls and talk a little fiction or non-fiction, like because
Oh, sure. I'd love
I'll
to.
do some baseball with you, and I swear like that's what you and I, but we have
Well,
other
that's what
interests.
we bring. Yeah.
You
I
just want to
mean,
talk about Springsteen, I think too.
yeah, I'd love to talk about Springsteen. I hope he keeps touring because I'm going to miss him in DC. But Rebel Falls is going to town, and we have a standalone sequel coming out to Rebel Falls called Irish Falls. And I've got a question for you. You ever heard of the Fenian Brotherhood? Probably not.
No, I don't think I have.
Fenian Brotherhood, Irish Americans. So we're Rebel Falls ends roughly at the end of the Civil War. Rory Chase has helped save the day from Confederate spies along the border with Canada. Everything I do pretty much in fiction is based upon true events. And then I stumbled across less than a year later, again along back in my old part of the world, Western New York, Niagara River, Niagara Falls. You had these guys, the Fenians showed up. Fenians had fought in the Civil War, mostly on the north side, somewhat on the south, and they were mostly Irish American who had come over. Their families had, at least during the Great Hunger. And I did some research over in Ireland on that. Actually, went to a lot of great pubs there and saw some great music with my friend Larry Kerwin, who used to be front man for Black 47. He's the guy who got me over to Ireland. So anyway, the
I went to
Fenians.
see you too, but that's the only time I went to Croke Park and saw you too, so it was great.
Oh, you two's awesome. But anyway, Fenian Brotherhood invaded British Canada three times from 1866 to 1870. Why? And they were a lean, mean fighting machine because they had fought at Antietam, they had fought at Gettysburg. There used to be an Irish brigade with the Union Army, but they invaded British Canada because they were trying to get land in British Canada and exchange it in a sense,
Where would
hold the
British
land
Canada
hostage.
be? Would that be Ontario at that
Yep,
point?
Ontario. Yeah, below Toronto, Welland Canal, Hamilton area. And they were looking to get land there, exchange that land in British Canada, and the key word there is British, for land in their homeland of Ireland,
British
which
Canada as opposed to French Canada, which would be Quebec.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But
Okay.
the thing is, what they were doing is Britain is calling the shots. So can we get some land there and then exchange it for some free land in Ireland, which was under British rule at that point too.
So
And
we could
once
go
I,
home in their
yeah,
mind.
go
Yeah.
home or save the ones who were left back on the beloved Emerald Isle.
When
And
is this
once
launch? When's your book come happening here?
it'll be early next year. But
Okay.
we just went into production. We just started doing covers. The cover look somewhat, to be akin to that. So
Okay.
that's what kind of keeps me going. Once I heard about the Fenians, suddenly I'm off to Canada, I'm off to Ireland, and that's been a lot. That book's been a lot of fun to do.
So for you, baseball, just to bring this full circle, because I had no
Sure.
idea you were a music critic. A lot of people didn't know that I was a music critic till they, find me later in life,
Hmm.
and they wonder why these rock stars show up all the time. But the baseball side of me is I don't know a life without it, and I can say this to Don Rovax and Katie Griggs, who've continued to treat me the way the Angelos family treated me. But I came at it honest. I mean, I don't really have a life that I remember not having a wiffle ball bat, not being an Oriole fan in 1972, 73, 74, Tommy Davis, DH, Al Bunbury, Rich Coggins, like just like going to the ballpark, seeing Louis play in this last year in September 73.
Oh,
I have a picture at the
it's great.
ballpark. I have the ball. I had, yeah, Louis, oldest living Hall of Famer whose birthday was Wednesday. So in
Mhm.
now 92, Luis. So for me, I don't know that there's going to be a life after baseball. You mentioned me. You still love hockey,
Mhm.
and your Buffalo roots and the Flyers people are all up in arms. I text with Barry Trotz the other day.
Mhm.
My dude Kenny Albert has now crossed the threshold of more broadcast than anyone in the history of. He passed Dick Stockton for
He's a
national broadcast.
superstar. What he
Yeah,
did
I
during
mean,
the Olympics was amazing.
he
So,
was my original partner here in doing radio. He's the reason I'm on radio. Hey, Nestor, you want to do a New York style sports radio show? So Trotz was his roommate at one point. So with hockey, my hockey background is my dad took me to a Clippers game in 1973, and I liked it a lot more than he did. My dad was from Scranton, Pennsylvania, more boxing, baseball, basketball, hockey, didn't really understand it, soccer, didn't really get it. But I loved hockey, so I dragged him to minor league hockey games, which were basically fights in the mid '70s. Blades, Clippers, ECHL, AHL, Erie Blades,
it was
Hershey.
like Slapshot.
Totally. A lot of those guys were skipjacks.
Yeah.
One of the Goon brothers, the Carlsons, I knew Stevie Carlson. Like he was a skipjack. He played for Gene Ubriaco. So like my hockey background and all of this hockey, and some people think of me as in hockey ways. We haven't had a team here in 40 years, right? 35 years, whatever it's been. And the Capitals and Barry winning and all that. I walked off the ice that night in
Mhm.
Las Vegas. Went out with Trotz. He wanted me to go to the Bellagio at 4 a.m. and I my wife's like, go. I'm like, no, I'm done. Don't encourage him. I'm going home. I'm not going to the Bellagio. I just ate Caesar salad out of the Stanley Cup with Alex Ovechkin. I'm going home. So we went back to, I think we were staying at the Lux or whatever. And that night, I haven't watched 5 minutes of hockey since that night. I just ended it because I
Mhm.
got misspoken to by the Leones' family and the Fredo son, and I'm
Mhm.
60
That's
miles away, and they promised to bring the cup to Baltimore, and they reneged on all like many radio promises about
Mhm.
Baltimore's involvement in that. So I just stopped, right? Like, and I like the cold turkey part. I don't know when I really stopped watching the NBA. Probably right around the time Leones just bought the team.
Yeah.
But like, I don't watch the NBA. Basketball, college basketball. Tim, I used to fly around every March, wherever. If the Terps were going to Austin, I was going to Austin. If the Terps were going to
Mhm.
Knoxville, I mean, I've been to Oakland. I've been all over the place with Steve Francis and Gary Williams frowning at me, and like just all of that. But as I'm getting older now, music's the place I continue to go back to. It's the thing on my calendar that's circled. The Bodines are playing at Ramshead next week. Springsteen's playing 2 weeks from now
Mhm.
in Pittsburgh. I'm going to that. Like their concerts for me, it used to be my calendar. If you go back in the 90s when we knew each other, everything was about the baseball all-star game and spring training. And before the Ravens even got here, it was all baseball owners meetings and trade deadlines and winter carnival at Camden Yards. And like, I'm not done with baseball. I'm not. I'm still in it. I'm going to watch 2 baseball games today, but I have cold turkey things in my life that um Old girlfriends, old hobbies, old habits. You know what I mean? Payphones. There's a lot of things I used to do that I don't do anymore. And I don't know, I want to talk to you about baseball because they're going to have a labor thing again. For
Yeah,
you
it's
and me,
coming.
that's old hat. You
It's
covered it. I
coming.
covered it. I'm only using my story because people know how much I loved hockey. They like the blast. 20 years ago, I got misspoken to by the guy running the team. And that was that. And I'm like, okay, you don't want me at your games? I won't come to your games. Now, with the baseball and football teams, they've told me they don't want me at their games. I mean, the baseball people have said, don't come. We don't want you. Stop talking about us, which is kind of dangerous when they only have 7,000 people at the ballpark last night. But the baseball thing to me, I don't know if there's going to come a point for me where I'm like you to some degree, where someone's going to call me from a radio station and say, hey, you want to come on talk Orioles? And I'm like, well, I really don't watch them anymore,
Yeah.
like, or
Yeah,
have
I
even,
can't get up to speed on it
I'm
sometimes.
not prideful about not watching hockey anymore. I just decided I wanted more of my life back. That
Yeah.
after lifting the Stanley Cup that night with one of my best friends in the sport, that was enough. And then they treated him like garbage a week later and treated me like garbage a month later. I'm just like, I haven't even walked in that building. I haven't even gone down
Hmm.
there to see a concert. Like literally, it's not on purpose. It's just sort of like, I don't need to drive down to DC ever again after doing it 10,000 times for hockey games. I'm just done. Baseball. What if I had, let's say I had 4 box seats for a doubleheader today against the Astros, and
Hmm.
I invited you, what would preclude you from going or not
Oh,
going to a baseball game? And what stopped you from w- immersing in it other than your real life and you becoming a grown up?
well, I would probably go if I could go with you. I think that would be fun. And actually, I was at a baseball game just a couple Saturdays ago, City Field. I finally made it to City Field. We were at New York. A friend said, "Hey, let's go." And
And
so I
you hadn't
went.
been to the ballpark, so there was some allure there.
Yeah, you can see, some of the glimmers of Camden Yards and the way the seats are done and such. But it was funny walking up there and my friend is, he's excited. We're going. We're with a bunch of other people. And I'm going, who are they playing? And he goes, the Athletics. And I go, okay, that's one of the teams I broke in with when they were in Oakland. That's one of the first teams I ever covered. And they're playing the Mets.
You and
And
Susan Fornoff?
oh yeah, I know.
Nice. Oh, Baltimore. It's
Yeah.
Baltimore girl.
And as we're walking to the stadium or walking to City Field, I'm going, I think I know maybe two guys total on both these teams. That's how much it's like fallen off at times for me. Now, I love the playoffs. I watch the playoffs, but you're asking what's the motivation? Why? Um, some of it has to do with my son. My son really doesn't watch baseball anymore. I mean, we talk hockey, we talk college basketball. He's a Michigan guy, so he just had a great year, with them winning the championship. And my son was a very good baseball player. He was a really good catcher. He pitched a little bit,
Passionate about the game, obviously.
very
And the
much.
history of the game and his relationship with you. And
And,
you
and
guys, you're in locker rooms covering all this for 25 years. Like,
right. And
my kid
I'm
could
coming
care
home for the fun.
less. My kid loved Mike Messina and still has his baseball card collection.
My
But
casinos. Yeah.
other than that, I couldn't beg my kid to come sit at a ball game with me for 2 hours, let alone for
Yeah.
five. He has no interest. He went to one of the Royals ALCS games with me in 14.
Hmm.
That's the last baseball
That's a
game I
while
went to
ago.
with him. I went
Does he keep score?
Yeah, I mean, my son played ball and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, my son was pretty athletic in that way, but not team sport oriented as much. But he played football at Perry Hall and but no interest at all in modern professional sports. Now, he and his wife did like the Capitals 8, 10 years ago when they were on
Hmm.
their run,
Hmm.
but they don't,
Yeah.
as far as I know, he can't name five current Capitals, like, nor can
Mm.
I, by the
Mm.
way. But I'm just saying, this sports thing, 35 years into carrying this all the way with people like you, I do still know. I mean, I have Barry Bloom on, who's as into baseball as he's ever
Oh,
been. And
sure, sure.
right,
Barry's
like,
great.
I have my old baseball mafia people on a little bit. But then
Mhm.
there's people like you that even Pete Williams, when I call him when the Orioles are in Tampa or whatever, and he's like, yeah, I don't follow it the way I once did. I went to the ballpark once this year. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself,
Mhm.
my God, how could baseball lose us in that way that we're not as interested? And I don't mean me as the public figure and doing what I do and talking with Luke every day. I just mean, like, if I didn't do this for a living anymore and somebody were paying me to write fiction books, I'm
Hmm.
wondering whether what I would still watch and what I wouldn't watch in regard to professional football, professional baseball at this point, because I have parachuted from things in the way that you've parachuted from baseball. And I would think you probably 20 years ago would have thought that to be a very unlikely outcome for you,
Oh, I
right?
think totally. I mean, I will go to one, maybe two, maybe three games a year. And it kind of depends where I am. Like if I'm gonna see my son in San Francisco, I'll probably drag him to a game. I like the ballpark. I'm not quite sure, the players on the field, but the time gets finite and you start picking your spots a little bit. And I think and like you, I used to go to 80, 100 games a year. In fact, I told my wife that the other day where, we were at that City Field game because she was one of the folks that went. I'm going, wow, I used to go to like 80 plus games a year. And this is my first game this season. It might be my last. I might make a Nats game. I might not. And I
I
still love
find
it.
myself having a hard time watching the game at the game because I don't see the strike zone as well. Because I watch 145 on
Mhm,
TV,
mhm,
and
mhm.
now the TV and the ABS. And Ben McDonald's very good. Jim Palmer's outstanding. So
Sure.
on nights when they're on, which is 80% of the time, I feel like I know more than Luke does, who's sitting in our press box seat in the Jim Henneman press box. It's been moved. That I
Mhm.
feel like going. I even said, listen, I got offered tickets as we speak today, and I said to my wife, "There's two games. I can get work done. I can see the strike zone better. I can get replays." I mean,
Right.
here's the goofiest thing about going to the game, Tim. While by the way, Tim Wendel is here, longtime author. Look him up, Johns Hopkins, longtime baseball writer. I went to one game 2 weeks ago. They played the Diamondbacks. I was BSing with a client with my back to the field, which you can now do because there's netting everywhere. You can't get hit in the back of the head with a line drive. And I missed the ball going up. And it was a hot day. It was 90 degrees with daylight. Ball went up into play. And when I turned around, some left fielder wearing number 42, they were all wearing number 42.
Um,
And the Orioles had three guys they just called up from Norfolk and had no I Weston Wells and Rodriguez, Jonathan Rodriguez. And they had a catcher named Sam Huff, spelled the same way. Same way as the cranky football player was me when I had to help Stedman with his book. So on the 58 Giants. So this guy's running around left field chasing the ball. And Diamondbacks are running around like it's like it's the 82 Cardinals. And I look up, guy standing on third base. I'm like, what the hell happened? And all they could do on opening day, state gave them $600 million. They kicked the press out of the press box to create this lounge, the airport hangar lounge nobody wants to go to, and all these empty seats that used to be the terrace box underneath.
mhm.
And they built a bigger television in center field, and they are proud of the girth and the largeness of their huge television screen. And that's all they could talk about on opening day when I'm sitting here sick as a dog watching the pregame. Oh, we got a new TV. You got to come see it. It's big. It's big TV. It's a large TV. It's the 13th biggest in Major League Baseball now after being the 30th. Like it was like all of this shit basically. And I turn around, I look up on the scoreboard, and I just missed the play. And guess what? They refused to show me the left fielder booting the ball
Oh, it made him look
because it would
bad.
hurt his feelings and it would
Yeah,
be
yeah,
a
yeah.
replay of a failure or an error. God forbid we make errors in baseball. Like, and I'm thinking to myself, this is absurd.
Yeah.
Like, the game's better at home. Like
Yeah.
literally, the game is
The
better at
technology
home.
has made it better at home.
And
See,
in a lot of ways, and that's one of the reasons I don't. Other thing, I did 30 ballparks in 30 days. I dealt
Mhm.
with Angelos for 30 years. I get treated like I deserve a second water fountain out next to an outhouse in order to be involved with them while they welcome my Caucasian employee into a press box seat. So like I have all of these other issues of angst, but the biggest issue of angst is just sort of like I still like baseball more than maybe I did even 10 years ago with the shift and all of that. And I like it better when we're competitive. Baseball is a lot more fun in Baltimore when you have a chance to win.
Oh,
And
sure.
I had the station 28 years and we've had about 6 years where I could sit here in May and say, yeah, they have a chance of being a playoff team, right? But for me, I still like it enough that I could be snookered back in. But Friday night the games are on Apple TV. I ain't getting no Apple TV. You know what I mean? I don't love going to the ballpark anymore. I certainly
Hmm.
when I'm on the road, I'm going to be in San Diego in a few weeks. The Padres are home against the Mets. I mean, if Freddie Ullman leaves me tickets, I'll go. If not, I'll look and say $42. Do I really Like, I'll just go
Right.
get dinner. I'll go get a pizza.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll watch the game in the bar down the
Well,
street. You
and
know, like
it's often the company you keep too. Who you going to go with? And that's what gets me into the game. Yeah, not into the game, but that's why I'll go now. It's like, who am I going with? Oh, that sounds like fun. But if not, you're right. It's better on TV. And if it gets to be a dog of a game, I can switch the channel and go to something else. And
but you become a nerd in October though. That you're more like a hockey fan, like playoff start. Here I am, right? Like
yeah,
you at least baseball playoff time, it
yeah.
becomes a soap opera you can get involved in. And I think they've done a decent job with that part of
hmm
the short series. I don't think it's fair, but
Oh,
you
it's
know,
not fair at
it's not
all. But
fair, but it's more interesting, right?
yeah, I get roped into it. I like the story. And also that was also my favorite part, even though it about killed me sometimes, of when I was covering ball. I loved covering the playoffs. Even though at one point I remember, good God, when my kids were young, what series was that? I don't know. I think it ended up with Atlanta and Toronto in the World Series. And
91, 92, somewhere in there.
yeah, before the work stoppage. And I think out of 35, 37 days, I was away from home for all but one or two. And I'm just going,
How
hmm.
old was your kid then?
My kids then were
1991.
four, no, 5 and 1.
Oh
Some,
man, you were missing like baby time with them, right? For
yeah,
long
yeah.
stretches. I mean,
And
I
I
did
still,
30 ballparks in 30 days 12 years ago, and like you couldn't get me to drive up to Citizens Bank Park right now, even to see the Fanatic or even
yeah, yeah,
Gritty. You know, I
yeah.
mean, and there is a point for me where the oversaturation of sports just all the way through, and journalists sleeping with football coaches, and that's yesterday's news, and tomorrow, and I can't keep up with the drama part of it. I think one of the reasons the NFL is so successful is that they only play once a week and
Right.
they only play 4 months a year.
It builds to this one day.
Yeah, and the rest of the year is just Hollywood gossip trash for the most part, and draft day and schedule night and
Right.
marketing
How
and
many mock drafts can you do?
yeah, reality TV, who did this and who said that and who's coming here and like all of that. Baseball's hard, man, right? Like just that's the part I had Casper Wells on last week over
Yeah.
Coco's played and and he was a guy played 5 organizations. He had that sort of and I'm not being disrespectful. He was the prospect that they kept trying and getting through and never had that Ryan O'Hearn year or whatever. And I said to him, it's so hard to do. And now you're bouncing around from team to team. You're getting this hitting coach thinks you should do that. And we got into the head of all of that. And I'm like, that's where they are right now with the Orioles, at least with Kobe Mayo and
Mhm.
Holiday, whose dad knows how to do it. Now he's got to go out and do it. It's such an incredible grind to do it 6.5 days a week. And the fanboy in me never really appreciated that until I stood next to Jamie Moyer, who did the show this week for 45 minutes, and we talked about his
Uh,
book and his like. So I'm thinking old baseball this week, Wendell. Come on now. I mean,
I love Jamie Moore. He
you don't
was a
think you're
great
my
interview.
top baseball guest this week? I had Jamie Moyer on this week.
He's a great interview.
Oh my! So Jamie came on and did, and I know Jamie from back with Digger Phelps and Karen and his ex-wife and all that. I love talking baseball with Casper Wells and with Jamie Moyer and picking their brain about baseball because baseball leads so much time to be cerebral. If you're a bullpen pitcher, you pitch 3 nights a week and you sit there and watch it the rest of
Mhm.
the week. If you're a DH, you just watch it. If you're the weekend catcher, and you're called upon, but the travel, the stadium, and now the modern part, and this is where I talked to Casper Wells about the
Mhm.
analytics. It's a whole
Mhm.
different game than showing up with a cup of coffee, Davy Johnson at 5 o'clock on game night, and penciling in the lineup. Like what's going on with managers, management, analytics, who's making the lineups. It is a completely different sport than it was when we covered it.
Oh, very much. Analytics has taken over. But it's I I love the lessons that I learned from baseball. And one of them, I still remember, a lot of managers have said this. I think Weaver said it at one point too. But one of the teams I broke in with was the Giants in San Francisco. I was a swing guy. I covered the Giants sometimes. And,
What
when they
paper? Mercury News?
no, my wife was at the Mercury News. I was at the Examiner in
Okay.
San Francisco back before the Chronicle bought them.
I
First
sent
bought them.
resumes to every sports editor in America between 1988 and
Oh, you
1992.
probably sent one to Charles Cooper. I came in.
Charles Cooper, absolutely. I sent him. I can find his rejection letter. God, trust me.
He trusted me with so much stuff. He hired me off the street because my wife was interviewing for a job at the Chronicle. I ended up, and they had the same building. They were in the same building on Market and Fifth, And somebody said, told me, sports may be looking for somebody part-time. And so I got on the phone. Coop ended up answering the phone. He said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm over at the Chronicle. My wife's interviewing for something here," which she didn't get. She ended up working at the Merc. And he said, "Well, come on over, find your way over." And I went over, talked to him for like a half hour. He offered me a job where I started on Fridays and Saturday nights, pretty much helping with the
It's a
Sunday
Buffalo
paper.
guy going out to San Francisco. That's big toots there in the early 80s, right?
Yeah, without a job. Neither one of us had jobs. And
Wow.
that was after the Courier folded, but in Buffalo. So
Bold journalist you were back then.
but Coop hired me, and then I became full time, and then become the swing guy. And the Giants had Roger Craig, who lost so many games as a pitcher in the major leagues, but was a great manager, very laconic, kind of southerner. And I was driving people crazy on the beat because I was doing it too fast. Will Clark, all those guys were just going, "Who is this new guy? He's driving us bonkers." And Craig had to pull me aside and just pretty much say, "Slow down." In a sense, I've got one thing I need to tell you. We play this game almost every day. So in a sense, chill, see how it's unfolding. You don't have to do it like football where it's going to be one thing a day, one thing a week and everything builds to it.
That's what I loved about spring training. You show up at spring training and it was chill. It's like you flew into chill in
Feel the
late
chill.
February, usually for me. Tim Wendel is here. He flew into a lot of things, including baseball journalism and a life of that. He is a writer in residence at Johns Hopkins University here in Baltimore. You live in Northern Virginia, though, correct?
No, actually, I'm down in Charlottesville
Oh,
now. So
Charlottesville.
yeah, I'm down in beautiful Charlottesville.
Yeah, I
So
saw
I've been
Bruce
down here.
down there. I saw Bruce play
Oh,
that
did you see
beautiful
him
John
in
Paul
JP
Jones
John's?
arena there.
Yeah, we
Absolutely.
just had, who was it? Billy, well, you heard about the Billy Strings incident, right? Did you hear
No,
about
what
that?
happened there?
Billy Strings just played last Friday and Saturday here, packed. I did not go to the concert. But he did two shows and he was in such a euphoric mood after two encores on the Saturday show, the second show. He started skateboarding backstage, completely wiped out, destroyed his foot, and broke some of his leg. And he went to emergency. Oh, who runs emergency down here? My daughter does. My daughter is head of UVA emergency.
2 o'clock in the morning, she got Billy Strings in there and it's got him in an air cast. Is that what you're telling me?
That's right. And then Billy Strings put up something on Instagram pretty much saying, "Thanks to all the good folks at UVA. I shouldn't be skateboarding. I know that, but they got me on the road to
I
be."
do things I shouldn't do, from
Of
time to
course,
time,
like go to a baseball game.
like run around South America alone for 17 days. Tim Wendel is here. He writes more fiction than nonfiction these days, although I missed the real stuff back in the day.
We'll come
For
back to
you,
it.
so Springsteen, I need to
Yes.
ask you. Yeah, I did not know all of this background. If you just joined us on the radio, Tim was telling me how he was a music critic back before I was a music critic in the early '80s, and seeing Springsteen on the Darkness tour and all that. So the Springsteen thing for me, Tunnel of Love was kind of where I came in on it, and
Hmm.
after the live albums. But I mean, I
Mhm.
was in on Born in the USA. I mean, when I worked at the Soundwaves East Point Mall, that was the #1 album in the world. And hearing Bobby Jean and songs that I love, Darlington County and
Mhm.
I'm on Fire, and just all of those things. I'm a Bruce guy, but there's something about sports writers and baseball writers and Bruce Springsteen fans. And I'll say that I'm going to throw Rosenthal under the bus. My original relationship with Ken Rosenthal began when he started at the Evening Sun in 1987, and that's when Bruce was like going from Born in the US to getting rid of the band, right, to doing Tunnel of Love, to then
Mhm.
doing Lucky Town and the solo kind of albums. And Rosenthal's from Jersey. So like he had like a whole like New York, New Jersey thing going on. And he gave me Thunder Road on 45, and Be True was on the flip side. Because
Ah,
back then the
nice.
only way I could hear the song Be True would have been to have the B-side, because
Mhm.
we didn't have
Mhm.
mixtapes even then, for crying
No,
out. Well, we
no.
maybe had mixtapes, but we didn't have much. 1987. We didn't have much, so these kids today with the Napster and the Spotify's and all of that. So I have these relationships with writers, and every time I have Seth Wickersham on, we have to do some
Uh,
Springsteen.
sure,
And
sure.
most of you, but you brought it up with me before I even brought it up with you, because you saw me. I went to Minneapolis and I went
Mhm.
to the Newark show. And you know why I went to the Newark show? Peter King. I text Peter King because he loves Bruce, and part of Don Banks and I kind of fatefully went to a Bruce show in Brooklyn the night that Bruce played Purple Rain back in 16.
Ah,
We've
right,
lost
right,
Don Banks. It
right.
was the last time I saw Don
Hmm.
alive was at that
Hmm.
show. And so Don Banks loved Bruce. Peter loves Bruce. I text Peter because he lives in New York. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about coming up. And he texts me back. And this is what a writer can do to you. You know, it's with Don. So Peter King writes to me. He's like, there's nothing like seeing Bruce in Jersey, Nestor.
There you
And he
go.
writes me
Sold it.
back and he sold it. So I went and saw Bruce. And the thing, I mean, I'm friends with Nils for 40 years. So, you know, I'm going to get Nils on at some point. But the amazing part to me through all of this is, yeah, ticket prices and Ticketmaster and traveling and how old he is and all of that. But just how the music, he put a set list on this tour together
Mhm.
that is the most powerful, driving, political, angry, um it was like a freight train, man. Like I
Mhm.
sat at a bar in Minneapolis after the show with my friend Maggie, and this dude's there, and he's a little older than me. He's like, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. He exhausted me. And I'm like, it really is that. And he's doing it every night. And I'm checking the set list every night. And,
And then he
there it
comes
is,
back.
Youngstown and 41
Yeah,
shots and American
yeah.
Skin and just on and on and on. And I'm like, wow, man, like this, he's built for this at this point in America and where he is.
Hmm, hmm. And the band's certainly built for it too. I mean, it's a great, great band, as you know.
Huge band this time out.
And well, I hope to keep going. I'm going to miss them in DC because I've got to go to Denver for a wedding. So I
You want to
hope
go
we
to the
can.
garden on the 11th? I'm here. Here's my arm. Twist it. Come on. Twist it.
Maybe, maybe. I was just up there.
If we get on the boat, listen, we get on the Peter Pan bus, it's like $24 right now. All you got to do is get here, dude. I
Yeah, I
mean,
just got to get to Baltimore, get on the Peter Pan bus. Well, I hope he keeps going with it. It's funny.
grab your ticket in your suitcase. Thunder's
That's
rolling
right.
down these tracks. Come on.
I was talking about my son with baseball. I've taken both my kids to Springsteen concerts,
It's because you're a good parent.
and my son was what? God, and he used to play piano. And my son did, I think he was only 17, 18, something like that. And I think he was still in high school, may have just started college. Anyway, the show starts and he's just watching. My son gets kind of intense and just kind of locks in. And that was when they were playing the whole it had to be, yeah, the Thunder Road, born
The albums.
the albums. So did the
Okay.
whole album. So it started with Night, and which I think is a totally overlooked song. I think it's a beautiful song, and they're into it. And my son is listening, he's listening intently. He's not really saying anything, and then after a little while, he kind of turns to me and goes, "Dad, this is a really good band." And I'm going, "No kidding, kid."
Nils thanks you for that as the band leader. Tim Wendel can lead my band anytime. Get everybody how to find your books and all that in Rebel Falls. You've been out signing, you've been out symposiuming and
Oh
talking
yes.
and all of that. And
Well,
what,
Amazon, of course, so they can just, if they got any questions, they can reach me on my website, just timwendel.com. So it's there.
you professoring? You teaching these days?
I'm not teaching that much. That's kind of winding down. So, and that's kind of okay. Even
All
though some
right.
of my
Well,
old students still reach out to me and tell me how I changed their lives. And I go,
this AI thing,
so
Tim, for anybody that writes, it's the
yeah,
most
I gotta start paying better attention.
incredible thing I've ever seen. And if you were my professor, I would have cheated on my term paper. I promise you I would have. Tim Wendel is here. He will grade me accordingly on the Nestor curve, hopefully on the baseball curve. He's my old baseball pal. He's written books on baseball. Summer '68. Look him up. Wendell, Wendel. Tim. He's down in Charlottesville, Virginia. His daughter is helping save the life of Billy Strings, and we're trying to save
Beautiful stuff.
democracy around here, one fiction at a time. I think here, and there's plenty of nonfiction going on. I hope that we do get to a ball game at some point because you're exactly the kind of person I would go to a ball
Oh,
game
I
with
would
too.
enjoy
So.
it. That I'd come up for that. That would be great. We
Just
got to
make sure
talk
it's
about
not 98 and we're in the
No, no,
sun this
no. I
time.
did that one time with Rasig and we
I
about
got to do the
died, so
shade a
we
little
can't do
bit. I got to
that.
have a ball cap on. Yeah, even, guy thought I cut my hair because I had my ball cap on. I'm glad to see you cut your hair. I'm like, I'm sorry that I
No,
disappointed
no, no.
you. The last thing for the rock and roll thing is I went to see the Black Crowes with Gina Shock about a year and a half ago. And
Oh,
we wound up in the
oh.
front row. It wasn't anything rock stars. I literally just bought the tickets online and we bought them. And I'll pick you up. I'm driving. Get in the car. So I went over to her house in Dundalk. And next thing you know, we're down at the Black Crows, and we're about 3 songs in, and my hair was out. And I did confide in her. I said, I love my long hair at a rock show. That's why I don't love it at a 98-degree game, Oriole
No,
game. I don't,
that's
but
like the David Crosby song, Almost Cut My Hair. You can't do that. Come on.
so I
So
took off my hat. I said, imagine that. Me working for you. Tim
that's
Wendel is
right.
here. You and I could do that all night with those song lyrics. He is still revisiting the Last Waltz and the band. If you need to know anything about that, or Bob Dylan and Bill Graham backstage at the Winterland at 76, he's your man. I'm Nestor. We're WNST Baltimore Positive. Stay with us.